Hi guys, next piece of the puzzle. I need the lockouts, but those are coming Monday. But when putting in the brakes in the front and the hoses, I had to cut the driver's side brake line off, and the passenger side I could feel pits in the brake line, so I gotta run all new brake lines in this thing. This line coming off of the master cylinder, this is a single master cylinder, and that line feeds all 4 brakes. So since and that line has a rubber chunk in it, because they didn't figure out that you could put the circles in your brake lines yet, so it has a piece of rubber brake hose that needs to be replaced. So gonna put a dual master cylinder on this thing. The plan is that line goes down to a block on the frame, and that block splits it so that brake fluid goes to the rear and both fronts. So I am going to hopefully run a new brake line down to that and keep the front brake lines attached to that, and hopefully relocate the pressure sense switch for my brake lights down to that block. It's been a while since I've been under the truck, so I'm not sure if there's enough room to put that switch in, but that's the plan. And then run a brand new brake line from the master cylinder all the way to the rear. A couple things. I bought a 67 F100 master cylinder, which is the first year they had dual master cylinder. And one of the reasons you want to replace the single and make a dual is because if you blow anything in the brake lines, wheel cylinders, anything with this system, your whole truck, you lose all brakes. If you have a dual master cylinder, if you blow something in the back, you still have front brakes. If you blow something in the front, you got back brakes. So it's just safer. So this is the master cylinder I bought. It's supposed to be for 67. Came with 2 different rods. And I bought 2 25-foot rolls of brake line, and it came with a bunch of fittings. That's copper and nickel, I believe. It used to come black, so I was surprised when it came looking like copper line, but it's brake line, it's not copper line. There's 2 things that I need to happen. I need the master cylinder to bolt into the original bolts, and I need that rod between the 2 that's in the package and the 1 that's on the truck that hooks up to your brake pedal. I need that rod to be the right length, because you need a little bit of free play. If that piston in that master cylinder is pushed at all, you will not get brake return, so your brakes won't work properly. So I need that rod to be right, and I need the holes lined up. Okay, first roadblock. Apparently these are not studs. It's a flathead screw on the back side So I'm going to attempt to take the 4 out for this plate and see if I can't get this apart. The other side almost came apart, but this one's spinning. I went underneath to put a wrench on it, and those are flathead screws, and this side is behind a bracket, so you can't even really, maybe with 2 people you could hold it, but by myself I can't do it. Okay, top 2 are bolts. The bottom 2 are a nut and bolt, which means I gotta hold it on the inside while I turn the outside. They're just not making this easy to come apart. Okay, vice grips on the bottom 2. I was able to get the nuts off. There's the screws I'm talking about. I'm half tempted to weld them, tack weld them in so they turn into studs. FYI, if brake fluid's coming out of that boot, you have a problem with your master cylinder. It's leaking. So it's a good thing I'm replacing it. Okay, just having trouble getting a bolt out. Got one screw. I don't have a torch, but MAP gas is the next best thing. It's way hotter than propane, so it little MAP gas and she came right apart. Okay, first hurdle. Will it line up with the old holes? And yes, it will bolt right on, which is a good thing. There's the duo. So I'll bolt right onto the truck. This is not a restoration. I am just getting the dog truck back going. So I cleaned up most of the rust, sprayed her down with some brake clean, gonna throw some black paint on it. Okay, so I cleaned that up with a whizzy wheel. And I cleaned this plate up with a whizzy wheel. So those screws are getting welded in. I put anti-seize on the nuts on the back side, tightened it up so they were good and sunk. And I'll weld that up, clean it up, and put it on the truck so it has studs instead of fucking screws. Like I said, I'm not dealing with that anymore. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but it'll do the job. Well guys, it's not the prettiest, but I welded and cleaned that place side up. I'll flip her over and paint the other side. Okay, Dad's got shovels and rakes and picks. He's working on fixing the path for himself. I had to put a whole new sewer line in this place, and they dug this driveway out. So it's still a mess, but it gives Dad something to do. Alright, plates painted, studs are welded in, and get this thing started to see if it'll work. Okay, plates going back in. I'm anti-seizing everything, because you never know. I had to take it apart again. Alright guys, best thing I can tell you for some of that's new, make sure all your bolts are started before you tighten it up. And then if you're an old mechanic like me, you're trying to prop the freaking bolt in the inside any way you can, because I don't have anybody else here. I can get the freaking nut started, and now I lost the freaking nut and washer. The struggle is real. Okay. I don't know if I have ghosts or what the heck's going on, but that nut and washer, I had it in my hand. 1 second, I try and support the frickin' bolt on the other side, and it's gone. I found another washer and a bolt. Washer nut. And I got it all tightened up. So there's the master cylinder bracket back on. So, alright, she bolts right on. Now to see if I have the right rod to run the brake pedal. But there's plenty of clearance. I can get that cap off, no problem. Not sure what I'm doing with the brake lines yet. But those are the fittings and the caps that came in for doing bench bleeding, which I have to still do the bench bleeding. I just wasn't going to do it until I made sure it fit. So, anyways, it's on there. Okay, that's the two rods that came with the master cylinder, and that's the original one. Three different lengths, so we'll find out which one works. Gotta make sure you got your free play. Enter, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, the original one's the middle one. It's actually too short, and the long one is what came with the master cylinder, and it's too long. You need something in between. So I'm gonna have to make a rod. Now it's starting to get late, so I'm gonna end this video with, you can get an adjustable rod on the inside. They sell them. I'm gonna have to freaking cut and make a rod for the inside, but the master cylinder itself bolts right on. And once you get the right length of the rod to the brake pedal, the rest of it's just doing the plumbing. That's the important part. Just make sure you got free play in your pedal. You don't want to be pressing on the master cylinder. Alrighty, guys. Oh, and for the guys that are not sure, the small part of the master cylinder is for the back brakes. So it's backwards. Front of the master cylinder is the back brakes. The rear of the master cylinder is for the front brakes.